author of Resurrection Year, Turning Broken Dreams into New Beginnings. No matter what your broken dream is, perhaps it's like ours. You wanted to have a family and you've never been able to have a child. Or perhaps you long to be married and you're still single because Mr. or Mrs. Right has never come along. Perhaps it's an artistic dream. Your art hasn't made it to the masses. Nobody's downloading your songs off iTunes. Maybe it's a career dream. You've never been able to have that fulfilling career. Maybe you had it, but you lost it. Maybe you lost somebody very close to you. No matter what your broken dream is, I hope that you're going to find some resonance, maybe some help in the letter I'm going to read from Becky in just a second, and perhaps even some of the suggestions I bring as a response to Becky's letter. If there's one thing that I've learnt, and I guess has become really solidified in my own mind since Resurrection Year released, it's that our dreams and our broken dreams might be very, very different to each other's. Yours might be completely different to mine and vice versa, but the emotional response to our broken dreams can be incredibly similar. And so as we read this letter, I hope you find some sort of help and healing as you're going through your own broken dream. Becky writes this: Dear Sheridan, I've just finished Resurrection Year and I loved it, although at times it was a difficult read. Like you, my husband and I haven't been able to have children, and we've tried almost everything to do so. The hardest thing I find is the pain and longing that never seems to go away. I resonate with what Proverbs 30 says, the barren womb is never satisfied. You and Merrin have been able to move on with your lives. What I want to know is, does the pain and longing ever go away, or does it just lessen over time? Yours sincerely, Becky. Well, Becky, Merrin and I feel your sadness, and we know something of what this journey is like. And that longing that you describe, it can be so powerful. I think there's a few things that I could say in response. Number one, it'll probably always hurt. And if we recognise that, it probably won't catch us by surprise when it does. When we walk past that playground and there's a family playing with their children and we think to ourselves, why not us? It's just not fair. It'll happen. But I think I'd add a second thing. What Merrin and I have discovered is that over time, the time between the tears widens. The time between the heartache and the broken-heartedness, the time between those moments where you pull out the tissues and you have a cry again, it widens. There is a sense in which you enter a new normal and the pain does lessen over time. And that's good news. You're not always going to feel the way that you do now, so hold on to that. I'd add a third thing. If you really want to move on, you need to grieve well. And to grieve well, you have to let go of the dream. Now, this is a hard thing to explore, but I think it's a really important thing. As you know, as you've read the book, Merrin and I spent 10 years wandering through the wilderness of infertility, trying for 10 years, trying everything to have a child, IVF, waiting for 2 years on the Australian Adoption Register. We tried special healing prayer meetings, we tried special diets, we tried chiropractic. I don't know why we tried chiropractic now, but somebody said that would work. You'll try anything, won't you? 10 years, nothing worked. And there came a time when we discovered we just couldn't go on anymore. We had to have a new beginning. We had to start again. We had to get on to our lives. And so we did that. But over that 10 years, we'd accumulated baby stuff. We'd accumulated a pram, a stroller, a high chair, bibs, jumpsuits, bottles, teats. We'd accumulated all this baby stuff for that day when we would bring our little bundle home. Now you can imagine what it was like walking into our place, walking into the kitchen and seeing the high chair and the pram and the stroller waiting to be used, walking into our spare room and finding all the baby books there and finding the porta cot underneath the spare bed. All of those kinds of things, all of those reminders, all of those symbols as to what we didn't have and wouldn't have. Well, something had to be done with those things. In chapter 3 of Resurrection Year, there's that special moment where Merrin and I have an experience of being able to let go of those things. Our sister-in-law had only recently told us that she was expecting her second child and she needed some of those things. So we invited her around and Merrin and my sister-in-law were able to pack her car full of the pram, the stroller, the high chair, the bibs, the jumpsuits, the bottles, the teats, the porta cot, all of those things, the baby books, the play rug, put them all into her car. My sister-in-law was able to get into her car, she was able to drive up the road, turn the corner, drive out of sight, and Merrin, as she was watching that happen, said she felt as if finally she was free, because all of those little symbols had been carried away and taken out of our lives. I describe our infertility journey is like a wilderness journey, and when you're walking through the wilderness you get burrs on you, don't you? You get things that stick to you and to your clothes. Merryn felt as if when the car drove off and away, took all those baby things away, the burrs started to come away in the breeze and float away. So I would say that there's an important moment there to have a time where you truly let go of the dream, and maybe even do something very physical to do that, very practical, almost like a ritual. I know of somebody recently who had come to a similar decision, that after 10 years they were to call off the dream of having a child. It was just too painful now. And they wrote the dream on a piece of paper. They gathered friends and family around for a barbecue out the back, and they were able to throw that piece of paper into the bonfire and able to say goodbye to the dream. I know another woman who had turned her spare room into a nursery. She had painted it up with baby colours, and she had the crib ready and everything, all the baby things around. And of course, the years went on and that little bundle never came into her life either. She was not able to move on until she had redecorated that room and turned it back into a regular spare room. So there may become a time for you, I don't know if it's now, but there may come a time for you, Beck, where it's actually time for you to do something physical and bring the dream to an end. If that is your time, can I just say a couple of things? Number one, your life is not over. There is life after infertility. When we're going through infertility, we feel like our lives will be over, like we won't have any meaning, like we won't be able to become the people we really want to become. Yes, of course you're going to grieve. You can't become a mum unless you choose to adopt or foster, and that's a wonderful, wonderful option, and I hope you do consider that if you haven't considered it yet. But there will be a sense of grief, but you will not be able to move on unless you say goodbye to the dream, unless you let go of those symbols. But you will have a fulfilling life. You will have a meaningful life, just as you do right now. Your life is meaningful, and it really can be fulfilling with our children too.